Fox, but I've known him for a long time. And he's basically a military guy. I mean, every time I talk to him, all he wants to talk about is the military. He's a military guy.
Have you gotten assurances from senators that he's going to be confirmed? Do you think he can make it?
No. I think he will, yeah. I've had a lot of senators call me up saying he's fantastic.
You don't drink yourself.
No.
You've talked about how devastating drinking can be.
Yeah.
How concerned are you that the person who you picked for this top job at the Defense Department, at least according to those who've worked with him, has struggled with drinking?
But I've spoken to people that know him very well, and they say he does not have a drinking problem.
So Joe, it's he's a military guy. He's a military guy. Every time we meet and talk, we talk about military stuff. That's all a lie.
Yes.
Donald Trump doesn't even really know anything about this guy besides what he sees on Fox News. That's the attractive point for him.
Besides the fact that he's a pretty face. Let's cut to the chase because it is Saturday morning. Trump doesn't give a shit that Pete Hegseth has a history of treating women like shit.
Right.
Because that's what Donald Trump has done. Trump doesn't care that he's an abuser and a harasser of women, because that's what Trump has been. So it's the drinking, I think, that Donald Trump has always considered to be a weakness. But we were talking earlier, Michael, I don't think Trump wants to take another hit. He lost Gates.
Right.
I don't think his ego wants him to lose another cabinet pick.
I just want to be clear, this is a huge job. When you're talking about the Department of Defense, you're talking about the largest government agency. You're talking about an $841.4 billion budget. You're talking about 3.4 million service members and civilians. I mean, it's an important role. And to me, some of this speaks to just how shallow the Trump bench actually is, right? I think there's been this question of what will the Republican Party look like post-Trump, post-Trumpism? And part of what you see is I don't think they've actually built out a bench.
Well, the only counter to building out a bench I have is that Donald Trump has called other people potentially for this job, including the governor of Florida, right? That's the other reality here that I'm sure Hegseth heard and didn't feel too good or confident about. I think when we talk about the size of this agency, the purview of responsibility, Hegseth doesn't have anything substantive to offer in this role. The other thing is the reality of what his nomination reflects to service members who are required to operate and exist at a standard that does not include harm against women, that doesn't include alcoholism. I'm the daughter and granddaughter of veterans. And so that expectation, when you take that oath, when you are active duty service member to operate, they're going to look at him and say, well, if he's doing it, why am I being held to a different standard? I think there's so many different things in play here about what he reflects as a potential leader of this agency.
And so I love that point, Juanita, what he reflects. Because, our cabinet, cabinet officials generally sort of backgrounder a little bit depending on the department or the agency over time. A lot of people know, maybe the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Health. But they may not know some of the lesser cabinet, but the same standard of who they represent, and they do reflect a little bit of us, which then brings me to the point about how the U.S. senators, the Republican senators who now have the majority, how this reflects on them, how their advise and consent role, constitutionally mandated, reflects on them. You have Joni Ernst, who's at the center of all of this. Hegseth put out a tweet this week saying, quote, "I just had another substantive conversation with Senator Ernst. I appreciate her sincere commitment to defense policy, and I look forward to meeting with her again next week." Her tweet was, "Pete Hegseth and I will continue our constructive conversations as we move forward together in this process. We plan to meet again next week. At a minimum, we agreed that he deserves the opportunity to lay out his vision for our warfighters at a fair hearing." So what about your behavior? Your vision for our warfighters is one thing, but to your point, your behavior sends a message to those very same warfighters about the person who's going to be sitting in the chair. Where does this put U.S. senators right now? Because I think at the end of the day, they're going to do whatever Trump wants them to do.
I tend to agree with that, Michael, except when it comes to issues of defense and national security. And that's why I think Tulsi Gabbard's going to be in real trouble as well. Senators feel very territorial about defense, as they should, and national security. So I really do think the Hegseth nomination is still in real trouble. I think that they will probably toughen up and maybe take one more of Trump's, and it could be this one.
So, I mean, someone like Hegseth, he can afford to lose 3 Republican votes. That's how the math works out. So I wonder both who you are looking at as who it will be that will hold the line, and if you are Democrats, sort of where you are pressing them to get them to that no.
Well, I'm not sure if it's Democrats' responsibility to press these Republican senators. And so I think going back to that, but also the general culture of the Republican Party under Donald Trump says accept the least qualified individual. Time after time, nominee after nominee. None of these people have the capabilities. You mentioned Tulsi Gabbard. She also has a file that service former people within the intelligence community are saying, y'all need to look at this file. Y'all need to look at this file in private because it's probably thick in terms of her alignment with authoritarian regimes, in terms of her alignment with people like Assad in Syria or Putin in Russia. But remember, that's why Trump is picking them. He wants that alignment. He supports that alignment from his private meeting in Helsinki with Putin all the way to offering Putin COVID tests at a moment when Americans didn't have access to them in the early days of the pandemic. I think the other concern about these incompetent individuals who Trump is putting up there is pair that with this urge and desire by his incoming administration to remove civil servants who serve no matter who the president is. They want to clear that out. And what that paints a picture in my mind of is a clear runway for Donald Trump to be that dictator on day one that he wants to be.
Because there's the incompetence and there's the lack of fitness.
Yeah.
And the problem is, in many of these cases, it is both.
Well, both of those, the incompetence and the lack of any cohesion, is part of the chaos model that Trump likes around him, right?
Well, exactly. And his only criteria is to be an uber loyalist.
Right.
Because understand, what he wants Patel and Gabbard and Hegseth and these people to do is to go after and destroy the agencies they are intended to manage, to get back. It's all about revenge and retribution.
So the question is, so when you blow a hole in the middle of the federal government, what do you do then? What happens when you take out these agencies? What do they think this looks like? I'm sitting atop an agency that I've just cleaved off 20,000 employees, for example, and now the phones are ringing, but there's no one at the desk to answer the phone.
You put in a bunch of loyalists.
So you put in the loyalists who have no clue what to do with the pen and the paper that's on the desk in front of them, and how to answer the call from the irate citizen who now has realized that, oh, my services, benefits, my assistance is gone. Who do I call and So is anyone thinking through the rest of this?
Of course not, Michael.
Trump's not.
Strategy been the
Isn't he
goal.
such a cute technocrat?
But I don't think anybody on his team is
thought I
thinking
set
about
that
it.
question up. Go
You
ahead.
say Trump's not, but I don't think anyone is. I point to the example on abortion rights, right? Republicans have pushed for this for decades and decades and decades. Then it happens. Then they get pummeled in the midterms, and it's something that Democrats are running on. But there is a longevity to that about what stays in the minds of voters and who is to blame. So I think the only playbook that they know is destroy, have fun destroying, and then point the blame at somebody else. Hide your hands after you're done with it. That is the only move they have. But what that means is, you talk about benefits, I'm thinking about, okay, they got the Social Security Administration. Who's making sure those checks go out to individuals? They impact veteran affairs and benefits at hospitals across this country for veterans. Who is then going to lose? It's the American public. And that's where I do think it's important for Democrats to come in and have an explicit contrasting vision for this nation. Because while they're doing the battle and fighting Donald Trump, fighting whatever extremist policies come from his administration, they need to fill the vacuum with an explicit, clear vision, which was, again, something that was missing.
But Trump's not thinking beyond retribution.
Of course.
That's where
that's his goalpost right there. And once he crosses it, he's like, okay, I'm back at Mar-a-Lago. Juanita Tolliver, former Congressman Joe Walsh, thank you, my friend, for getting up and both of you being with us this morning. Next, a live report from New York City as authorities announce a new reward in the manhunt for the gunman who killed the United Health CEO. You're watching The Weekend.
I paid for my own college, so I knew I'd have to start accumulating a lot of money, paying student loans, paying rent. There wasn't much left over. Every month I put whatever I could have into Wealthfront. It does the work for me. I don't have to worry about picking stocks or making sure that I'm getting the highest interest rates on the market. I have these automated mechanisms that save for me and take care of retirement for me. If I send my money to Wealthfront, I know that it's being taken care of. It's my all-in-one financial advisor app.
John, are you eating anything?
Oh, do you believe in life after love?
You hear a lot about all the work that comes with parenting.
Careful.
But what about the fun? With Lovevery, you'll experience the most fun and rewarding version of parenting. We hear it all the time from our customers. Children play with every single thing in their play kits over and over again. And we'll walk you through all the different ways that you can help your child learn through play. When you design with intention, the experience is just better for everyone. Visit lovevery.com.
At Chomps, we create snacks for people who are hungry to get the most out of life, who only accept the highest quality. Because real life demands real ingredients. We make snacks that don't take shortcuts, with grass-fed and finished beef, 0 sugar, and up to 12 grams of protein. When life challenges you, take bigger bites. Chomps, take bigger bites. Learn more at chomps.com.
The future of cool, comfortable sleep is here. Introducing the new Sleep Number Climate Cool Smart Bed, the only smart bed in the world that actively cools and effortlessly adjusts to both of you. Sleep up to 15 degrees cooler on each side. It actively cools by drawing warm air away from your body to keep you cool and comfortable throughout the night. Our smart sleepers get 28 minutes more restful sleep per night. And now save 20% on the new Climate Cool Smart Bed, plus free home delivery. Shop a Sleep Number store near you.
Your business needs to hire someone now. So, in addition to managing your business, you have to go through hundreds of resumes and hope for the best. Or you can go and get the best. Introducing Paychex Recruiting Copilot. It uses AI to help find potential candidates from millions of profiles, whether they're looking for a job or not. Then, it helps you get in touch and get them hired. 5 times faster than job postings. Get your own Paychex Recruiting Copilot now at paychex.com/TV.
When I was younger, my calling was to play football. But as I grew older, I realized life isn't about how many people you can knock down. It's about how many people you can lift up. At Ram, our calling is to build game-changing trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
During the Ram Wrap Up the Year sales event, get $5,000 combined cash allowance. Plus, current Ford brand owners or lessees get $2,000 bonus cash allowance on the purchase of most 2025 Ram 1500 trucks.
Here at home tonight, news of every imaginable shape and size. A lot of the big news in the country and in the world right now is still developing tonight. Now is the time, so we're going to do it. Settle in. I have a story to tell you. Watch this space.
Go beyond the headlines with the MSNBC app. Read,